sure that we've all been watching the back and forth with Absol and DJ Akademiks. Let me just say that this situation is precisely why people hate the West Coast. This is why. This is why. There have been episodes of some podcasts that I like, and that I check out about this topic, but sort of inadvertently, right? Specifically, just recently, Culture United had an episode of their show, and the subject of it was, who's more hated, LA hip hop or New York hip hop, right? As if people woke up on a Tuesday morning and said, you know what? I don't want to like LA hip hop today, or New York hip hop stinks, right? No one did that. If a large contingent of people don't like the region of hip hop, a certain region of hip hop, there's a reason for it. There are reasons for it. And 9 out of 10 times, it has nothing to do with a lack of talent of rappers from that area or anything of that nature. That's usually not why. It's typically something to do with some ancillary nonsense that's, native to that region, right? Do you all remember when the Drake Kendrick battle was going on, or even the Pusha T Drake battle, more like the Pusha T ambush, but that's another story for another day. And remember, you all said, hey, Drake, you can't dictate how someone responds when you diss them. That's what you get for dissing people, right? Y'all remember y'all said that? Now, I agreed with the sentiment of that. I didn't agree with the context that most of y'all said that in last year, because most of you were saying that to say that it was Drake that started the battle and he dissed Kendrick first, and that didn't happen. That's nonsense. I do not know why people keep saying that. It's stupid. That did not happen. But the fact of the matter is, the sentiment is fair. The sentiment is, hey, if I slap you in the face and you take a baseball bat out and bludgeon me, this is what happens. Keep your hands to yourself, right? Which, as just a standalone statement, is 100% fair. It's 100% correct, right? Where's that same logic with the Absol Akademiks situation? Where's that same logic? Because it certainly applies. Absol said he's going to slap Akademiks when he sees him. And a day or two later, when he's talking to Magwap on the phone and, about the situation, Absol says, I was kind of trolling him. I meant it though. But essentially all the stuff that Akademiks said wasn't cool. The stuff about Nipsey and whatever and his funeral and whatever, right? Again, this, folks, is why people hate the West Coast, right? It is a fundamental lack of self-awareness. It really is. It's like they forget that the rest of the country can't relate to West Coast gang culture. I don't care how many videos you've seen with LA gang members. I don't care how many shows you've attended. If you don't come from that environment, that's not something that most of us grew up with in that environment, which is part of the reason why movies and music and art and whatever that has West Coast gang related themes are so popular, because it is still a lifestyle that most of the country isn't, intimately aware of, right? Akademiks was 100% right and justified to defend himself. Did he take it a little overboard? Yeah. If it was me, I wouldn't have said all those things. I gather that most people wouldn't have said all those things, but I understand why he would get that angry. He felt bullied. He felt like he was being picked on, which is precisely what was going on. And we all know it, but it's because y'all don't like Akademiks. It's like y'all will justify anything. And that's not fair. It's just not fair. There have been a ton of content creators in the days since the Akademiks and Absol situation that have been making some of the most one-sided, disingenuous, intellectually dishonest content that I've seen in months. And that's saying something, right? There were content creators that, with episodes of their shows with thumbnails that were driving me crazy. Akademiks said he will kill Ab-Soul over a diss song. Really? That's what happened? DJ Akademiks crashes out again on Ab-Soul. Seriously? Like that's what went down? Like that's what happened. DJ Akademiks crashes out on Ab-Soul for threatening to slap him. Right? Like no more context. Like we don't get any more. Like Ab-Soul responds to DJ Akademiks' threats. Is that what happened? They both woke up on a Tuesday. Akademiks threatened Ab-Soul, and Ab-Soul humbly responded to him. Is that what went down? Seriously? DJ Akademiks sets up the fade with Ab-Soul because that's what Akademiks does. He just likes to box people. He likes to fist fight people when he gets bored. That's what went down. Crashed out again. Ab-Soul ain't like us. And apparently on this one, on this content creator discovered that Akademiks also has rabies, apparently. Like, it's ridiculous. Akademiks responds to Ab-Soul and tries to act gangsta. Really? Like, that's what happened, Screwface? Seriously? Acting gangster is a person who says that they're going to assault a civilian. I come from a place where gangsters didn't do that. Civilians were off limits as much as police officers and politicians and anyone that's a upstanding citizen, right? You just didn't do anything or say anything sideways to someone that wasn't involved in illegal activity. That's gangsters, that's gang members, that's drug dealers, whatever, right? But then there was Rap Latte. Rap Latte had an episode with a equally as incendiary thumbnail as some of these other content creators. It was completely inappropriate. Had Akademiks made a thumbnail on his show that looked that depicted King Green or Toure in a similar manner, they would have a week's worth of shows about it. Anyway, Akademiks loses it again. All right, okay, it's ridiculous. It's not exactly what happened, but okay. King Green goes, do you know what type of person you have to be to say something like that? A fearful person. A very fearful person. He goes, you'd have to think of the most ridiculous thing to say that you've never been a part of because you don't know where it goes. And what he meant by that statement is that Akademiks, you don't come from that life. You don't come from gang culture like that. You don't come from a culture that has that level of consistent, normalized violence in that organized and that entrenched of a manner, meaning that they've done it over this long, period of time, in quite this same way. You don't come from that. I agree with King Green. For the sake of argument, I agree with him. Therefore, that was yet another reason why Ab-Soul was dead wrong in insulting and threatening a civilian, because he doesn't come from that, right? But then Toure says something that was extremely poignant that really drives this point home. So I don't think he was meaning to do any of that, but he did. Toure says, the broadcasters of this culture need to understand that we are not rappers. And if a rapper should use his platform to say something slick or dish you, let it slide. He goes, because when push comes to shove, and of course I'm adjusting some words for the sake of being more appropriate and keeping it to the point. He goes, because when push comes to shove, you ain't gonna do jack. And he didn't say jack. Essentially, for 9 minutes, for the better part of 10 minutes, I think it was 9 minutes and 46 seconds, don't quote me on that, King Green and Toure proceeded to insult Akademiks, essentially on behalf of Ab-Soul. My question is, when did this become appropriate? When did it become okay to talk crazy about a person that you don't like? I get that. But you don't like essentially on behalf of someone else. I mean, think about that. Like, not only is that inappropriate, but in all of these situations, not just King Green and Toure, but Screwface and many other content creators saying some of the things that they said about Akademiks in this situation specifically. If Akademiks had done something to Ab-Soul, had hurt Ab-Soul in some way, had hurt Ab-Soul in some way, shape, or form, or vice versa, had Ab-Soul hurt Akademiks in some way, shape, or form, maybe permanently, right? Or maybe a hospital stay or whatever it might be. Screwface, Toure, King Green, and many of these other content creators would all say the same thing. Well, that's the game. That's a black on black crime. Why can't hip hop seem to rid itself of the cancer of violence? Every one of you would have said something like that, pretending that you had nothing to do with it. My words couldn't have possibly have spurred anyone on to act. They already didn't like each other. Remember the Drake and Kendrick beef last year? Yeah, that's why they stopped liking each other. Me pumping up a random stupid bar by Ab-Soul had nothing to do with it. King Green and Toure, Screwface, and others proceeded to sit on their respective shows and say things like, you ain't gonna do nothing, Akademiks. As if we're on a schoolyard and y'all are double dog daring him to hit Ab-Soul or worse. And not one of you, if that were to happen or worse, either way, Ab-Soul doing it to him or Akademiks doing it to Ab-Soul would say, you know what? Hey, for what it's worth, y'all, I realize how my words might have encouraged Akademiks to do this to Ab-Soul or Ab-Soul to do that to Akademiks. And you know what? I don't want to be associated with none of that. Because at the end of the day, my son, my daughter, my niece, my nephew, I would not encourage them to participate in that type of activity. So why would I want two other black men doing it to one another? Not one of you would say that. You would literally pretend like your words had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing. If after that happened, Ab-Soul said, hey, by the way, this beat down that I just gave to Akademiks, hey, I just want y'all to know that Screwface Jean was who encouraged me to do that, based on the video of his I saw, right? If Akademiks did something to Ab-Soul and said, hey, I just want y'all to know that this is brought to you by the journalistic integrity of my homie Toure. Yeah. Not one of you would say, hey, I am honored to be mentioned. Yeah, like, ooh, I'm honored to be mentioned as part of this back and forth. You all would pretend like you didn't know why they mentioned your name. So my point is that this is the reason why Even though I get it, Touré and some of the other and Screwface and some of these other content creators may not necessarily be associated with the West Coast or with West Coast gang culture or whatever, but it don't matter. If you're fueling nonsense that could end up in a real bad situation for not just Akademiks or Ab-Soul, but for people connected to them. Be better, man. Be better. Be more responsible and more accountable. Because let me tell you something. All of us are old enough to remember the East-West feud of the 90s and all of the violence that happened as a result. And a lot of that was simply because of the awful and irresponsible reporting that went on, that put batteries in the backs of some, some of the people involved in it. And some of that violence pretty much had to do with people wanting to make headlines. And that's really unfortunate and irresponsible. But we can point to a nameless, faceless magazine or publication. But in 2025, Touré is a magazine. He's a publication. King Green is a magazine. He's a publication in and of himself. Screwface Jean is a magazine, a publication in and of himself, right? And so am I. I'm responsible and accountable for the things I say. I get it. We want to be entertaining. And there are content creators and different people that aren't particularly my cup of tea, but you will never see me come on here and insult them personally in any way simply because I didn't like something that they did or said. And even to the point of getting behind someone who they're having their own conflict with and basically like in a schoolyard trying to like push that, forward so that maybe they'll fight or maybe, nah, I'm not doing that. And I'm certainly not doing it because I think it's going to please the, people that watch my content. That's dumb because the people that watch my content aren't going to be the ones that are going to get caught up in some mess, out here in the real world. Be more responsible, man.